Here we go. Incredible career in the UK with musicals, 25 productions, take him around the world. Ended up in New York, Broadway's the place to go. Made the move to LA, landing his favorite show. Hamilton the musical was the one to know, opening the show as MD Puerto Rico. Ha! Now that was certainly the way to go, but suddenly the pain was too much for him to take, crushing all his dreams to step back and take a break. Major life change was heading his way. For sure, perfection is a pain that pushes you for more and more, but he found a way to look up and saw the light, helping people now speak up and fight the fight. Speaker, coach, and all-round entertainer. Ladies and gents, my guest, the motivator.
Outstanding. Love it.
Oh my God, I just rapped in front of
I can honestly say I've never been welcomed in such a way. Well done, that was amazing. Yes.
Oh my God, I worked on that all night, all morning.
It showed. You were great. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh my gosh, I'm thrilled that you're here. And in that song entrance was everything that you went through, didn't you? Because to get to this new career. So tell us how did it start and how did you end up to where you are now?
Yeah, well, I moved to the US in 2012, and I've enjoyed a really lovely career in music theatre as a performer, MD, drummer. Worked on over 25 professional productions worldwide. Been so lucky with travel. And yeah, we moved to the States, and I was kind of looking at different kind of career options at that point. But I fell in with a lovely mentor, somebody who means a great deal to me, Alex Lacamoire, who is the musical genius.
Yeah. Oh, we're stuck. Come back. Hold on. The little circle is going around. Hold on. He'll be back. Hold tight, Julian. We want to hear the story. Here we go. He's back.
You'll be back. There you go.
Yeah. Continue.
So I fell in with Alex Lacamoire and was the music director of the second US national tour, Bring It On, which was kind of the same team as Hamilton, a slightly different director, but it was ostensibly that core. And that's how I kind of got involved with those guys. And I obviously did a pretty good job on the tour, really enjoyed it. Because Lac then probably about a year later just said, look, we need new people on the Broadway production, on the Broadway music team to play for rehearsals, to, you know, teach new material, etc., to the cast that were taking over from the original guys. And that's where I first became involved with Hamilton. So I worked on the Broadway production probably for about 6 months, kind of behind the scenes. I didn't do the show at that point. But it was kind of around that time that they were putting the team together for the first national tour. And that's when they kind of, after a kind of very detailed audition process, said, well, do you want to be the music director? And I was like, okay, twist me out.
Wow.
So I enjoyed a really fabulous kind of year and a half with the first national. We did 5 months in San Fran, we did 5 months in Los Angeles. That's when my wife and I moved West Coast. And then we hit the road. And it was kind of hitting the road. And I sort of started to notice a few kind of funky things happening during the show. So the music director for Hamilton not only conducts the show, but plays piano at the same time.
Yeah. And
so I started probably around February of 2018. I started feeling some discomfort in my wrist. And it wasn't limited to just the wrist. It kind of might be in the wrist one day, then it would be in the arm, then it would be in the shoulder, and then the neck. But I had physical therapy and I worked through it. But gradually, the more I did the show, the worse the injury got.
Yeah.
And to cut a very, very long story short, I left the first national at the end of September, so probably 6 months 6 months into the injury. I actually left the tour because it was clear that I needed some sufficient time away from the production and from the piano.
And you say that conducting Hamilton is not like conducting a regular musical, it's like conducting an opera, like you're full on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very intense experience. Anyone that's ever done it would I think agree. It is like an opera in the fact that Hamilton just doesn't finish. So
yeah.
from the first downbeat to the intermission is about an hour and 14 minutes. Then you get a 15-minute break. Then there's another hour 14, hour 15 for Act Two. And because you're, you know, the boss, and because you're guiding the show and guiding the music, there's no time for switching off. And even so, even when you're not playing, you're conducting and guiding the show through its process. So it's an intense piece. And obviously, you know, with something like Hamilton comes a certain amount of, you know, pressure and all that sort of stuff. So I took some time away from the first national and got myself into a pretty good place. And I was asked to go and music direct the production in Puerto Rico with Lin-Manuel playing Hamilton. And rehearsals went pretty well. I knew that I wasn't 100%, but I felt pretty confident that I could kind of get back into it. And got to the point, in the second week of performances, where halfway through a show, I just thought, I have to quit. I can't do this anymore. Now, bear in mind, I just signed up for another kind of year, 2 years probably of the show, because that production was transferring to San Francisco. So Hamilton was going to be my life for a minute. And it was a job that I absolutely worshipped. I'd worked very hard to get to that level. And when you get to that level, you hopefully enjoy everything that job offers. Including the security that comes with that financially and all the other stuff. But sadly, my body had other ideas. So literally overnight, I went from, okay, life's pretty set. And because life's pretty set for a couple of years, that's going to afford me to do other things. And literally overnight, all of that changed. So that was the start of what I call the next journey.
I can't even imagine. And everyone, he has a TED talk as well that you should listen to, because he talks all about this in his TED talk. And you're literally saying on the opening night, you could feel the pain starting.
Yeah, I mean, it was the injury got to a place where it was. I mean, you've been a performer, right? You've been a dancer. You understand what physical injuries are.
Dr. Footlights.
You have to push through. You work through it. Sadly, my injury was sufficiently bad enough, and because I'd worked through it for months and months and months, the body literally there was nothing left to give. It was out of ideas. And the only way it could kind of get me to stop was to send enough pain for me to go, okay, this isn't fair on me. It's not fair on the show. It's not fair on Lynn. It's, you know, all of the things.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So.
Vanessa's joining here. She's just saying she got here late. What happened to Julian? He had a very bad injury while he was conducting Hamilton, Vanessa, and so he had to quit.
A repetitive strain injury.
From So he had to stop, and this was a major show, Hamilton in Puerto Rico. He had to stop. And so then what happened after that? What did you do mentally? How did you come around from that? Because that's crushing.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm very lucky in the fact that I'm born with genes that can deal with change pretty well and pretty quickly. I've also been self-employed for as long as I've been a professional. And I think that those skills gave me the opportunity to survive, basically. I'm not saying it was easy, but the glass, even when the glass is kind of non-existent, let alone half full or half empty, my glass is always half full. I'm one of those guys. So even though kind of the world had fallen apart a little bit, it was, okay, well, let's dust myself off and let's move on.
Which is happening to a lot of people right now. Everybody's like, glass is the glass is under half full.
Right, absolutely. And yeah, so I'm not going to lie, it was very, very difficult because it represents so much. I mean, anyone can relate to this. Imagine you've landed the job of your dreams. It doesn't matter what it is. And then for whatever reason, literally whatever the reason is, you have to let that go. It's incredibly hard to let go and have to work through a bunch of stuff. And by that, I mean, not only are you losing the job, you're losing the financial element, the money,
Yes.
the security that comes with it. You're losing your identity, because, you know, like it or not, many of us who like, you know, I enjoy working. I love it.
Yes.
And because I enjoy working, I've been, you know, I've worked hard all of my life, and therefore working is something that you know, I want to do, comes very naturally to me.
Mm-hmm.
And any success, and indeed any failure, you kind of pin to your own personality, you pin to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When you're wired like that. So to lose Hamilton very quickly, you're waking up one day and you just go, well, okay, if I'm not doing Hamilton, then what am I doing?
Yeah.
And who am I?
Yeah.
Especially when, you know, there was no guarantee that the injury would recover. So I was literally just having to throw myself to the open and to the gods, just to say, you know, please look after me and, you know, guide me in the right direction. And it was through kind of one of those times where I literally surrendered. I just let go. When TEDx Santa Barbara and I connected,
Yeah.
and that's when we first started talking about doing the TED Talk, which invariably gave me a platform to start the next thing. And so I was hugely grateful for that opportunity, and I was literally at that point grabbing onto literally anything that would give me a degree of stability and anchor.
Yeah.
But that was a real guiding light for sure.
And then you chose perfectionism as your topic, because that's something that you've dealt with your whole life, and as an entertainer and anybody actually creative who struggle with perfection, and part of, like, I guess, losing the Hamilton, not being able to do that's like, but I'm perfect, I have to be able to do this. So that was a great transition for you. So how did you come, because you must listen to his TED Talks, everybody, on YouTube. It's really interesting, the story. But how did you come to, like, the perfectionism idea that was going to be your talk?
Yeah, I mean, originally I spoke with the producers at TEDx about doing something along the lines of, it was going to be leadership based, and it was going to be, you know, moral leadership versus the opposite. And we kind of talked about it, and we realized that, you know, there's a lot out there in terms of leadership. You know, there's a lot of other way more qualified people to speak on that sort of platform. So we kind of dug into my kind of experience and life a little bit more, and that's kind of, perfectionism was kind of bubbling under the surface, because 4 months into conducting Hamilton in San Francisco, I actually had the world's smallest heart attack.
Oh, wow.
So I was 43.
I did not know that.
And I was walking up a hill in San Francisco after a show back to my digs. And I started to get a really tight chest, shooting pains down the left arm. Long story short, turns out my right coronary artery was 90% blocked.
Wow.
And so from that point, I had 2 stents put in. I'm very fine now. There's no complications. Life's back to normal.
Yeah.
But that was the start of my journey into self-compassion, and I was forced to make some quite big changes in life in terms of how much work I took on. At the time, I co-founded a talent agency in London about 8 or 9 years ago, and I was trying to run some of that agency alongside Hamilton. I had to kind of really let go of a lot of those responsibilities because it was just too much.
Yes.
And, you know, I had to make a lot of other changes. And that's when I really first started to understand that perfectionism had played a considerable part in my life, period. And the reason why I knew that is that I was able to connect through work with a psychotherapist who was amazing in San Francisco, Michael Klein. Michael, if you're watching, thank you. The work that we did enabled me to really make the connection between perfectionism and my overall physicality. So perfectionism for me, so for those of you who don't necessarily understand too much about perfectionism, very simply, it can be broken down into 2 parts. you've got adaptive and maladaptive. So adaptive perfectionism is what you would expect